Don't waste your life. Don't let these precious years slip through your fingers while you sit on the sidelines, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect version of yourself. Life doesn't wait. Time doesn't stop. And the truth is, you don't get a second chance at today. Every day you spend living small, doubting yourself, or postponing your dreams is a day you'll never get back. You've got to wake up and realize that your life is a gift. You were not placed here to simply exist, to scroll through life, or to settle for good enough. You were placed here to create, to love, to grow, to conquer, to experience the fullness of what it means to be alive. That burning desire inside you, that dream, that vision, that calling, it's not random. It's your soul trying to remind you who you really are. But here's the truth. Most people will never unleash it. They'll waste their lives waiting for certainty, waiting until they feel ready. And I'll tell you, ready never comes. You'll never feel 100% certain. You'll never have the perfect conditions. At some point, you have to step into the unknown, take that risk, and trust yourself enough to figure it out along the way. Don't waste your life on fear. Fear is nothing more than a story you keep repeating to yourself. It's your mind creating chains that don't even exist. Fear is the gatekeeper to the life you want, and the moment you confront it, you realize it was only smoke and mirrors. Everything you've ever wanted, freedom, love, impact, fulfillment, it's all on the other side of fear. Don't waste your life comparing yourself to others. That's a trap that robs you of your own greatness. You have a path, a set of gifts, a unique fingerprint on this world that nobody else can duplicate. When you measure your worth against someone else's highlight reel, you forget the power that's inside you. You forget that you already have everything you need to create the life you're dreaming of. Don't waste your life chasing approval. The moment you live for the opinions of others is the moment you hand them the keys to your destiny. You don't need validation to be valuable. You don't need permission to step into your greatness. The only permission you need is your own. And when you decide to own who you are unapologetically, that's when you become unstoppable. Don't waste your life in regret. Too many people are living inside the prison of the past. Yes, you've made mistakes. Yes, you've stumbled, you've failed, you've been hurt. But none of that has the power to define you unless you choose to stay there. Your past is a lesson, not a life sentence. Every setback was shaping you, preparing you, equipping you with the strength you need for the next chapter. You've got to decide right now that you're done wasting time. That you will no longer sit back and watch life happen. You're going to step up and make life happen. This is your time. This is your moment. You have something inside of you that is bigger than the obstacles in front of you. The question is, will you rise to it, or will you let it go unused? Don't waste your life waiting for someday, because someday is a thief. Someday is the excuse that robs people of their potential. If not now, when? If not you who stop waiting, stop doubting, stop delaying, start living. Because your life is worth more than you've been settling for. And the world is waiting for you to step into the fullness of who you are. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, because that moment doesn't exist. Too many people sit on the sidelines of their own lives, convincing themselves that one day they'll be ready, one day the conditions will be right, one day everything will align. But life doesn't hand out perfect circumstances. Life rewards action, not hesitation. The truth is, waiting for the perfect moment is the greatest way to waste your potential. You'll tell yourself you're just being patient, but in reality, you're holding back because of fear, doubt, or the illusion of certainty. You want to know how it will all turn out before you take the first step, but that's not how life works. You grow by stepping into the unknown, not by hiding from it. Think about how many dreams have died because someone kept waiting for the right time. They wanted to start the business, but they thought they needed more money, more knowledge, more connections. They wanted to go after their passion, but they told themselves they had to wait until the kids were older, until they got a raise, until they felt confident. And then the years slipped away, and those dreams turned into regrets. There will never be a day when every fear disappears and every doubt vanishes. Readiness is a myth, a trick your mind plays to keep you safe and comfortable. But comfort never changed a life. Comfort never built legacies. Comfort never fulfilled destinies. When you act, even when you're not ready, you unlock the power to grow into readiness. It's not about having all the answers, it's about having the courage to begin. The first step is always the hardest because it's the step into uncertainty. But once you take it, momentum begins to build. You start to discover resources you didn't know you had. You start to meet people who support your vision. You start to see possibilities that were invisible when you were standing still. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. The people you admire, the ones who have achieved extraordinary things, didn't wait until everything was perfect. They felt fear, they had doubts, but they moved anyway. They understood that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward in spite of it. And the moment they did, the path revealed itself. That's the difference between those who live their dreams and those who waste their lives dreaming about them. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's not having some magical gift. It's the decision to act without waiting for permission from the universe. Every single day you wait for perfect conditions, you're losing time you can never get back. Think about it. The world doesn't pause while you hesitate. Opportunities don't sit patiently waiting for you to feel ready. They pass by, and if you don't grab them, someone else will. The window closes, and you're left with the bitter realization that you had the chance, but you let it slip. And then you tell yourself, next time. But if you keep living that way, eventually there is no next time. You've got to make peace with the fact that life is uncertain. There will always be risks, always be unknowns, always be challenges. That's not a sign to wait, it's a sign to leap. Because the person you want to become, the life you want to live, is only found through the leap. You can read every book, watch every video, gather all the advice in the world, but none of it will change your life until you act. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. Dreams without execution are just fantasies. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now, because now is the only moment you have any control over. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow isn't promised, but today is in your hands. The longer you wait, the further you drift from the life you could be living. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. Fear is a story, not a reality, and your dreams live beyond it. Most people don't realize how much of their life is controlled by fear, because it disguises itself as logic, as caution, as common sense. But strip it down, and fear is nothing more than a narrative you keep repeating to yourself. A set of what-ifs that convince you to stay small, to stay safe, to stay in the familiar. What if I fail? What if I get judged? What if I'm not enough? Those questions play on a loop in your mind until you start believing that the risks of moving forward outweigh the rewards. But the truth is, those fears are not facts. They are possibilities created by your imagination, and they only have power if you give it to them. Think about the times in your life when you hesitated because of fear. Maybe it was asking for the opportunity you really wanted. Maybe it was starting something new. Maybe it was stepping out of a toxic situation. You convinced yourself that it wasn't the right time, that you weren't capable, that the outcome was too uncertain. But deep down, the real reason was fear. Fear whispered that you might lose, so you chose not to play. Fear told you that others might not approve, so you chose silence. Fear warned you about discomfort, so you stayed where it felt familiar. And yet, every time you gave in to fear, a little piece of your potential was left unused. The crazy thing about fear is that it often magnifies things that never actually happen. Studies show that most of the scenarios we worry about never come true. Fear feeds off your imagination, building mountains out of molehills until you're paralyzed by something that doesn't even exist outside your own mind. It's like a shadow on the wall. huge, and intimidating in the dark, but when you switch on the light, you realize it has no substance. The moment you face it, fear shrinks. The moment you move through it, fear loses its grip. The life you want, the freedom, the success, the fulfillment, is waiting for you on the other side of fear. That's the barrier that stands between where you are and where you want to be. And here's the irony. Fear is actually proof that you're heading in the right direction. If it scares you, it means it matters. If it scares you, it means it's bigger than your comfort zone, and that's exactly where growth happens. Fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signal that you're about to step into something that could change your life. So many people waste their lives letting fear dictate their choices. They settle for less because at least it feels safe. They bury their dreams because chasing them feels uncertain. They silence their voice because speaking up feels risky. And yet, those same people lie awake at night wishing they had been braver, wishing they had tried, wishing they hadn't let fear hold the pen that wrote their story. Fear is not here to protect you. It's here to test you. It's asking you, how badly do you want this? Are you willing to walk through me to get it? You cannot eliminate fear, but you can master it. You do that by acting in spite of it, by proving to yourself again and again that fear is not the truth. Every time you step through fear, you expand what's possible for you. You build confidence, resilience, and courage. And soon, what once terrified you becomes normal, even easy, because you trained yourself not to be ruled by stories in your head. Courage is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Imagine what your life would look like if you stopped letting fear dictate your actions. Imagine the relationships you'd build, the opportunities you'd seize, the places you'd go, the person you'd become. The only thing separating you from that life is the story you're telling yourself about why you can't have it. Change the story and you change your life. Fear will still show up, but instead of seeing it as a wall, you'll see it as a doorway. And every time you walk through that doorway, you get closer to the life you were meant to live. Comparison kills your uniqueness. Own your path. From the moment we're young, we're conditioned to measure ourselves against others. In school, we're ranked by grades. In sports, by performance. On social media, by likes, followers, and curated highlight reels. And slowly, without even realizing it, we begin to believe that our worth is tied to how we measure up against the person next to us. But here's the truth: comparison is a thief. It robs you of your joy, your confidence, and your ability to fully embrace the life that was meant for you. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you diminish the value of your own journey, forgetting that you were never meant to walk their path. You were meant to walk your own. Think about how much energy you've wasted looking at what other people are doing. Maybe you've scrolled through social media and seen someone living a life you wish you had, achieving goals you feel far from, smiling as if everything is perfect. You start asking yourself, why am I not there yet? Why don't I have what they have? What's wrong with me? But you don't see the struggles they hide behind the screen, the sacrifices they made, the insecurities they fight daily. You only see the surface, the polished version, and then you take that incomplete picture and compare it to the raw, unfiltered version of your own life. That's not a fair fight, and it's one you will always lose. Your path is yours for a reason. You were born with a set of gifts, talents, and experiences that no one else on this planet has. Nobody else has your exact perspective, your exact story, your exact capacity to impact the world. When you constantly compare yourself to others, you're essentially telling yourself that your uniqueness isn't enough, that you should abandon who you are to mimic someone else. But the world doesn't need another copy. The world needs you, authentic, bold, and unapologetically yourself. Comparison not only steals your joy, it paralyzes your growth. Instead of moving forward, you waste time looking sideways. Instead of building your dreams, you're too busy counting someone else's blessings. And in that distraction, you miss the opportunities right in front of you. You miss the chance to cultivate the gifts you already have because you're so focused on wishing you had someone else's. When you shift your energy from comparison to creation, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why don't I have what they have?" and start asking, "What can I create with what I've been given?" That's when you step into power. Understand this. Success is not a race, and life is not a competition. Just because someone else is ahead on their path doesn't mean you're behind on yours. Just because someone else's life looks shiny right now doesn't mean yours is any less valuable. Your timing is different. Your lessons are different. Your destination is different. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. If you're growing, if you're improving, if you're taking steps toward becoming the best version of yourself, then you are winning. Owning your path means making peace with the fact that it won't look like anyone else's. It means embracing the setbacks, the detours, the slower seasons, because they're shaping you in ways you may not understand yet. It means trusting that your story is unfolding exactly as it's meant to, and that your role is not to copy someone else's script, but to write your own. And when you do, something incredible happens. You begin to experience freedom. You stop living under the weight of expectations and start living in alignment with your truth. You'll notice that when you own your path, you stop needing validation from others. You stop craving applause or approval. You realize that the only thing that matters is whether you are moving toward the life that feels true to you. And when you live that way, ironically, you become more inspiring to others than you ever could have been by trying to measure up. People are drawn to authenticity. They respect courage. They admire those who refuse to be defined by comparison and instead choose to define themselves. Imagine what your life would look like if you stopped comparing altogether. Imagine the peace you'd feel if you trusted that your journey was enough. Imagine the power you'd step into if you poured all the energy you waste on comparison into building, growing, creating, and becoming. You'd realize that you were never behind. You were exactly where you were supposed to be all along. Approval is a trap. Give yourself permission to rise. From the time we are children, we are conditioned to seek validation. We crave the gold stars, the praise, the recognition that tells us we're good enough. As adults, it doesn't stop. Instead of stickers and report cards, it becomes promotions, likes, compliments, and the opinions of the people around us. And without realizing it, we hand over the steering wheel of our lives to others, letting their approval, or their lack of it, determine how far we go. But here's the truth. Living for approval is a cage. It keeps you small, it keeps you stuck, and it keeps you disconnected from the person you were meant to become. The trap of approval is subtle because it often feels like wisdom. You tell yourself you're just being respectful, that you're keeping the peace, that you're being realistic. But deep down, you know the real reason you hold back is because you don't want to disappoint. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to risk losing acceptance. So you shrink yourself to fit into the mold others created for you. You follow the rules someone else wrote. You silence the dreams that don't match their expectations. And little by little, you stop living your life and start living the version of it others approve of. The danger is that approval is never stable. The people you're trying to please today may change their standards tomorrow. What wins you applause now may earn you criticism later. If your worth depends on their opinions, you will spend your life running in circles, constantly adjusting who you are to meet someone else's shifting definition of acceptable. That is not freedom, that is bondage. And the more you chase approval, the further you drift from your authentic self. You don't need anyone's permission to step into your greatness. The only permission you need is your own. The moment you decide that you are enough as you are, that your dreams are valid, that your voice matters, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for someone to validate you, and you begin validating yourself. And that shift changes everything, because when you no longer need approval, you can finally live in alignment with your truth. You can take risks, make bold choices, and pursue what lights your soul on fire without the constant fear of rejection. Think about the people you admire most. They weren't the ones who played it safe and kept everyone happy. They were the ones who broke the mold, who dared to be different, who risked disapproval in order to live authentically. Every trailblazer, every visionary, every leader who made a lasting impact did so because they valued purpose over approval. They understood that the price of pleasing everyone is losing yourself, and they refused to pay it. When you stop chasing approval, you gain something far more valuable, self-respect. You begin to trust yourself, to honor your instincts, to follow your intuition even when it goes against the crowd. You learn to stand firm in your decisions, not because everyone agrees, but because you know it's right for you. And in that strength, you discover a deeper confidence than any compliment could ever give you. Of course, breaking free from the approval trap isn't easy. It requires courage to stand apart, to say no when others expect yes, to walk a path that others might not understand. You'll face criticism, you'll face judgment, and some people may even distance themselves. But those who truly belong in your life will respect you more for living authentically than for living as a copy of their expectations. And the ones who can't handle your authenticity, they were never meant to hold a place in your journey anyway. When you stop living for approval, you also stop fearing failure in the same way. Because failure is only devastating when you believe it makes you less worthy in the eyes of others. But when your worth is rooted in your own belief in yourself, failure becomes feedback, not condemnation. It becomes a stepping stone, not a dead end. And that freedom gives you the ability to take risks most people are too scared to take. Imagine the life you could create if you weren't chasing validation. Imagine the doors you would open, the chances you would take, the dreams you would finally give yourself permission to pursue. Approval might give you temporary comfort, but permission will give you lasting fulfillment. You were not born to be a mirror of other people's expectations. You were born to shine in your own light, to walk your own path, to live a life that reflects who you truly are. Regret is a prison. Use your past as fuel, not chains. Too many people are living their lives looking in the rear-view mirror, trapped by the weight of what they wish they had done differently. They replay mistakes, missed chances, and painful memories over and over until those moments become shackles holding them back from the life they could be living. They convince themselves that because they failed once, they'll fail again. Because they made a wrong turn, their entire future is ruined. Because they wasted time before, it's too late to start now. But regret doesn't have to be a life sentence. It can either bury you or it can build you, depending on how you choose to use it. Every mistake you've made was a teacher. Every wrong decision carried a lesson. Every painful chapter planted a seed of growth. Regret wants you to believe those moments were wasted, but the truth is, they can become the very foundation of your transformation. The past cannot be changed, but it can be redeemed when you choose to use it as fuel. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" start asking, "What did this teach me? How can I use it to rise higher?" That shift in perspective takes the power away from regret and puts it back into your hands. Think about the most successful, inspiring people in the world. Very few of them had a perfect, flawless path. Most of them carry stories of failure, loss, rejection, and pain. But what sets them apart is not that they avoided regret, it's that they refused to let regret define them. They looked at their scars and said, "This is proof I survived. This is proof I'm stronger now. This is proof I'm ready for more." They didn't allow their past to chain them. They used it as a weapon to carve out their future. Regret becomes a prison when you keep revisiting it without using it. It traps you in a cycle of if only and what if, keeping you anchored to moments that no longer exist. It convinces you to settle for less because you think you've already missed your chance. But the reality is, as long as you're still breathing, you still have chances. You still have the ability to choose differently today. You still have the power to rewrite the story moving forward. The past may explain you, but it does not define you unless you allow it to. You have to understand that the weight of regret is self-inflicted. It is not the events of the past that hold you down. It is the meaning you've attached to them. When you label a failure as the end of your potential, it becomes a chain. When you label it as a lesson, it becomes a stepping stone. The event is the same, but the meaning changes everything. You are the one who decides whether regret is your prison or your power. One of the most liberating decisions you can make is to stop punishing yourself for things you cannot change. You did the best you could with the knowledge, resources, and mindset you had at the time. Now you know more. Now you've grown. Now you have the ability to choose differently. That's what matters. Carry the lesson, not the weight. Take the wisdom, not the shame. Use the pain as motivation to build a future that's worth the struggle it took to get here. When you choose to use regret as fuel, it becomes a catalyst for action. Instead of saying, I should have, you start saying, I will. Instead of dwelling on missed opportunities, you start creating new ones. Instead of being paralyzed by the fear of making another mistake, you realize that the only true mistake is refusing to move forward. The past has already happened. The only question that matters is what you will do with it now. Imagine looking back years from today and realizing that the very regrets that once haunted you became the fire that pushed you to build something extraordinary. Imagine being able to say, if it weren't for that failure, I wouldn't have found this path. If it weren't for that pain, I wouldn't have discovered this strength. If it weren't for those mistakes, I wouldn't have become who I am today. That is the power of transforming regret from a prison into fuel.